Well, hello, and this is Diane dashing through the snow.
Hey, and this is Brian, your zombified 30 something.
And if you are here for another episode of Biters. We are going to talk about season 6, episode 7.
Yeah, I dug it. I really did.
You did!
Yeah.
Okay, I did too. So I was kind of watching it thinking, okay, I really liked it, so I bet you Brian's going to hate it.
Well, it was one of them, my knee jerk reactions was like, ugh, seriously, did we do this? But I will say, in the first 10 minutes, I had already sworn off Walking Dead forever
Oh, how funny.
because how ridiculous is this that this is how we start and he's still alive. Like, you're kidding me, right? I was so mad, so pissed.
Now, see, that is so funny because, and I know we're going to get deeply into it, but it was one of my favorite cold opens ever.
So let me ask you, let's just diverge
Ooh,
right away.
I don't know. I
Do
didn't
you
think about
think this
that. I mean,
episode was
it might
recut
have
to
been.
put that at the beginning of the
I
episode?
think it was certainly a nice piece of footage, and I think it sucked us right in. I don't know if you watched Talking Dead, but I did watch the interview with Stephen Yun and Scott Gimple, and they have been really paying attention to what's been going on social media, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I had a feeling that that's not where it fit in the conversation timeline.
Oh,
And
okay.
it just felt to me that they cut that to be at the beginning. So that way, they had so much negativity from this being a 4 week long
Right.
drama that to me, it just felt like they just cut it and moved that because that happened before the credits even came.
Well, it did, but don't they usually do a cold open with before the credits? I mean, I just kind of assumed it was part of their cold open pattern.
Yeah, but it's usually something that's not a meteor impact. Like this was
Quite so
huge,
shocking, right?
so to me, it would have made sense to just kind of see Enid like standing on top of the building looking down or something.
Oh, now that would have been a cool shot. I agree with you there. It still counts as one of my favorite cold opens, but that would have been a really cool way to open.
Yeah, because to me it just seemed like a lot of people always miss like the first minute or two of a program because you're putting your kid to bed, you're getting some popcorn, you're getting a beer, whatever. And if you miss that first 2 minutes of this episode because you were getting a beer or something, you're probably going to be pretty upset.
Well, and it's funny that you say that because my husband, who is obviously not as big a Walking Dead insane fan as I am, but he actually missed the first few seconds and he was like, I think I might have missed something.
Yes, sir, you did.
So let's go ahead and just dive right into ratings too. How did you rate it?
Well, I rated this one a 4 water bottle toss out of 5 because. Go
So,
ahead.
oh, go
No,
ahead.
no, no.
No, you go.
It's more part of the conversation for later, but go ahead.
So I originally rated it as a 4 out of 5 dumpster diving Glens, but then I thought a little bit more about it and I started looking over my notes and I thought I'm gonna give it a 4.2. It's not quite a 5, but I'm thinking about it a lot and I'm still taking notes and still talking about it a lot with myself and my husband and I think I need to rate it a little higher.
Well, it was definitely a lot of movement. It was definitely a lot of stuff.
And that is in my bads, actually. So we'll definitely talk about that.
All right. Well, how do you want to kick this off then, since we got the ratings out of the way? What do you want to do?
Oh, no, wait a minute. We haven't talked about the ratings, so I'll hit you with those real fast. I mean, we got our ratings out of the
Oh,
way, but
okay.
in terms
Yes,
of
yes, yes.
numbers, so I'll hit you with those real fast. So I looked up the ratings for last week, season 6, episode 6. It was still the top performer in the 18 to 49 adult time slot, which is the most coveted time slot. Overall, Walking Dead was still number one for entertainment television and overall, period. And they actually added 300,000 viewers, little over 300,000 viewers in DVR and Live Plus 3. And they overshot the NFL, let's see, by more than 300,000. They were up almost 500,000. So NFL was second in viewing, and they outshot the NFL by 300,000
Oh.
in that coveted time slot. This week we were up against the AMAs, so the American Music Awards, so it's going to be interesting to see what the numbers are this week.
Sure.
And we're early, which is good. I think that's fine. I did look at some stuff on IMDb, and it got an 8.8 out of 10 from the people who bothered to go to IMDb and rate it. So the thing that I wanted to say about the numbers is that they are consistently growing, and they're consistently growing in their Live Plus 3, which 6 seasons into a series is pretty amazing.
Sure, absolutely. And that's, I think, that it has a staying power, but, some of my kind of, our off-season content will be about my bigger thoughts on what it needs to do to survive into...
Good. I'm glad you're thinking about off-season content. That's good.
It's more about philosophizing about what's coming and when is this going to end. I mean, it's not going to go on forever. It can't.
Right.
So it's fun to think about those things. So for the listeners in the off season, we'll probably do some Christmas specials and stuff like that, and kind of hit or miss. So you always want to keep checking back to your feed.
Very good. Yep. And I did put out, and we'll talk about that in feedback, a request for some listener feedback about what they wanted to hear. And I know that we've supposedly, and I'm pretty sure I'm trying to firm up with the guys, but we should have both Kirk and Jeff joining us for the mid-season finale next week.
Cool.
So that should be really exciting. Couple things about the episode. So the title, Heads Up, what did you think that referred to?
Well, I think this was a double meaning.
Okay, because I'm at a loss. I'm just going to tell you now. I'm usually pretty good at overthinking things. Could not come up with a thing.
Sure. Well, Heads Up was not the game you played in elementary school, Heads Up 7-Up. This,
right.
This was, to me, Heads Up as, when everybody's seen the balloons go up, everybody looked up, heads up.
I think so too. I think that's really good. I did kind of think that, but then I thought, nah. So I'm glad that somebody else caught that.
And then when Jimi Hendrix All Along the Watchtower kicked in, it really didn't, but that was my own soundtrack to the show, was when the Watchtower came crumbling down.
Right.
And when that happens, you'd be like, heads up, when something's falling down, because heads up, and you want people to look. And, this time the show title was The Very Last Scene.
Very good. Okay, I can take that.
So those were my kind of, or it could just be Enid being a little brat and being like, heads up, and chucking the water bottle with no lid on it, and it goes crashing and water goes flying everywhere.
I think all three of those are possibilities. So I did think it was one of the more vague titles, so I'm glad you had something, because I thought, man, I got nothing. So let's see. The author of the episode was Channing Powell, who's actually a woman, and I found out that she goes by Elizabeth Channing Powell. She's got multiple producer credits for The Walking Dead starting in season 4. She has credits as a writer in, let's see, season 6. It looks like she's got 6 episodes total, and she's got another episode coming up, 611. So,
oh, she's getting her experience in then.
Yeah, and she did write Internment from season 4, which was actually one of my favorites. That's the one where Herschel kind of had his breakout episode, and they had that song Oats in the Water in the prison. So I really liked that episode a lot. I know that some people didn't, but it was kind of nice to see her name next to that. So the director, let's see, was David Boyd. He's got credits with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Without a Trace. He's got a bunch of director credits with Walking Dead, and interestingly enough, so his directing credits prior to this were all 3 season 1 episodes: TS-19, Wildfire, and Vatos.
Really? Huh.
And I thought this, I'm kind of with everybody else. I thought the CDC stuff was okay. I loved Vatos. I thought that was a great episode.
Yeah, I dug the CDC stuff, but...
You did? Interesting.
It was just not at the right time for me, and I think it was rushed. I think it was put in there because they didn't know if this was going to go to a season 2.
I have heard that before, and I think that's a good observation.
It would have been, to me, it would have been a good fit, like at the end of season 2. So, like, as they're kind of, they're out doing their little runs off the farm or something, and then they run into it, and something happens on a run. They got to go there for a week because somebody's injured or something, rather than the whole group going, and you get the whisper of how they die, and everybody carries it. But there's so many conspiracy theories about, baby Judith is going to be the one to have the thing,
Right.
and she's going to be the anti-serum for all this stuff. And there's all these crazy thoughts and theories that are out there about the CDC, but it was nothing. It was nothing.
And there was definitely some stuff that was alluded to in that episode where I feel like they could bring it up again. I mean, definitely the stuff about France. France was the last one working on it.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple of little things that could be grabbed onto and turned into future episodes, but I kind of felt like where they put it, I agree, it didn't amount to anything, and it could have.
The one thing that did come out of it was Shane's turning point. If you remember, they had that scene where he was shaving his head bald in the mirror.
Actually, no, that scene was from that was from the episode where he killed Otis.
I thought he was in the CDC when he shaved his head.
No, he was in the CDC when he tried to rape Lori.
Yeah, and I thought he shaved his head right after that.
No, he shaved his head because Otis grabbed him by his hair.
Huh.
And he was trying to hide the evidence of that. But they showed him in the shower in the CDC. So that may be the scene that you're visualizing.
Oh, well, probably not.
Because it was another bathroom scene.
Visualize.
What, you weren't paying attention to Shane in the shower? What's wrong with you?
No, and I'm still waiting for his twin brother Wayne to show up in Fear the Walking Dead.
Oh, that's so funny. Anyway, yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think though that he did have something of a turning point. We're totally getting off on episode 1, but his behavior with Lori, I think, in that episode was a real turning point for him. So I think that we started to see the transformation that was realized in season 2.
You bet.
So let's see. We've got title, author, director out of the way. We've got numbers out of the way. So unless you have anything you want to add, why don't we just go ahead and go into our goods?
All right. So one of my goods was the Morgan Council, where it's Rick, Michonne, Carol, Morgan. And
Okay, was that not a giant misdirect?
Oh, I thought it was awesome. This whole sit down, and it's one of them where if they could swear in the episode, it would be a giant WTF, Morgan.
Yeah.
WTF.
Well, it totally looked last week like they were going to potentially exile Morgan.
Well, I'll cover that in bold predictions. How's that?
Oh, okay. Interesting. Because I do think that there's a lot more to be had out of Morgan's story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, I loved how they didn't beat around the bush. Rick was very upfront with Morgan. Carol, you let 5 people go. 5 people tried to kill me. I almost died, killed them. You let them go. You see how this comes around? And they're just very blunt. Even Michonne, blunt.
Yes.
She is usually one of the most...
It doesn't work that way anymore.
Yeah, and it was like, what are you doing? Are you equipped to deal with this world? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And it's just kind of like, everyone's just like, seriously?
So that wasn't on my list of goods, but I agree that you put it there because I especially thought that the juxtaposition... Oh, I'm using Kirk's favorite word. I didn't mean to. I definitely thought that the contrast between Rick as he is now and Rick of season 1 could not have been more stark than it was in that particular part of the episode.
Yeah, I just like it because it was a no BS. There was no political correctness. It was, we're getting to the bottom of this, and I want to know if I need to kill you to keep me alive.
Right. This is the reality here and now. So what are you capable of offering?
Yeah, so that's one of my goods.
So I have to say that the first thing on my list of goods is that I was really glad that we saw Enid again and that we got more of her story. And a lot of people predicted that, and I'm glad that it came true.
Yeah, so that was my other good, was Enid and how she just straight up abandoned it. Just like, I'm out of here. I don't care.
Yeah, she's got major issues.
Well,
I mean, as would we all.
Yeah,
in
you
the
watch your
apocalypse.
parents get mutilated, and then you eat a raw snapping turtle. Probably got some issues going on, but it speaks to her level of capability. She is not someone
So
from Alexandria.
you actually segued right into my next good, which was the development of integration into the group as a theme. And Enid was one of the people that I really wrote down for that because she talked about when she first got to Alexandria, she was housed with Olivia, but she was still on her own.
Hmm.
And she never fully integrated into Alexandria.
You
You
know,
know, and oh, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say it's exactly what we had expected from Rick's group. Like Carl
Right,
saying, "Look, I don't want to be soft." Neither did Enid. That's why she
right.
jumped the wall all the time. She went out to keep herself fresh. Now imagine if Enid and Carl had a baby. That would be the little ass kicker.
Right, that would be Judith. That would be the real carrier of the cure. So, kind of in keeping with my good and the development of the theme of integration, there were some other things that they showed that really showed that our group is trying to integrate, and I think that we're going to get there. I mean, eventually our group is going to be Alexandria. Rick and Tobin's interaction at the wall when Tobin offers help to him and he accepts it, that definitely speaks to the group's integration. Tara saying we're all stuck with each other, so she's already integrated. She's already seeing the groups as a whole.
That's because she has a girlfriend.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's go back to Tobin for a second because
Sure.
I think that was a pretty huge turning point because it made me realize as I was watching the show when he said, "Look, I know what happened with you guys out there, but in here things move slow."
I thought that was a great
Yeah,
moment too.
and when you
And the
guys
way that they
arrived, it all
filmed
moved
him,
fast.
the way that they filmed him, the way they kind of focused in on him while he was delivering that,
Yeah,
it was a really nicely done piece.
I do. I think it spoke volumes to the message and to the reality of Alexandria. Like, look, we didn't ask to be left behind, but we did. And, hey, don't give up on all of us yet
Yeah,
because he could see it.
and we're here now and we're trying.
Yeah, so I think that made Rick really think about it like, huh, yeah, I guess you're right. You're not all dumb.
He definitely shows some signs of rejecting that integration afterwards, but I think overall you're right. He is thinking about them in a more equal way than he's thought about them before after this scene.
Definitely agree.
So, did you have anything else on your goods?
No, it was the Enid one.
I've got a couple more. I like that they called back to the theme that we've seen developing over the last couple of episodes, or last couple of seasons rather, which is that humans are more dangerous than the walkers. Because I think we're going to see that again.
Oh, we're definitely going to see it again.
I mean, I think that really the mid-season finale is just the precursor to the bigger storm.
Yeah, definitely next week, lots of people going to die.
Yeah. And just a couple of other observations that I stuck on my good list. I liked the casual relationship between Tara when she flips Rick and Tara off. I just thought that really shows that you're really comfortable with somebody and you know them well and you know what their response to you is going to be if you're kind of being that casual with a friend.
Sure. So the way I kind of relate that relationship is being in the service. Mine was the Marine Corps. If, you've got your platoon of guys, gals, everyone's kind of BSing and that stuff is normal. That is mild
Yes.
to what I'm
Yes.
used to.
Healthcare is very much the same.
Yeah. And I think of Rick as kind of that lieutenant,
Yes.
where he's our, platoon commander and this is our group now. We're severed from the entire battalion, but he knows what it's like to be an enlisted guy. So you can kind of do that. We're going to
Yes.
BS with you, but all the way up until the point of when you issue an order, we're going to carry it out.
I completely agree. I think that's a great way to look at that because that really describes that camaraderie, but Rick's little hold of authority over everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So my last thing that was on my good list was just the observation that Nicholas was considerate and took himself out with a headshot.
Yeah, we the people I watched, we kind of joked about that with. It was like, because one guy's like, well, this is ridiculous, and he didn't turn into a zombie, and da-da-da-da. It's like, he blew his brains out, and it's like, oh,
Right.
yeah, that was really nice of him.
So what about your bads? Do you have anything on your bads?
It was Glenn chasing after Enid the entire time.
Ah, okay.
It never was, and this is probably something that ended up on the cutting room floor. He kept saying, "Well, we just wouldn't leave you back." I think Glenn didn't know his way back, and that's why he needed Enid, because he didn't know how to get
Oh,
back.
that's an interesting thought.
Because they didn't
I
go back the right way. They got to that town by going this long roundabout way from the quarry all the way. So if you don't know which way you're going, if you go east and it's west, you're screwed. Or if you go south and it's north, you're screwed.
So a couple of things though, when he followed the carnage back, like when he saw the Walker David and put him out of his misery, was he, I kind of felt like he was tracking his way back that way. But maybe you're right. Maybe Enid was ahead of him and he was following her.
Yeah, if you were so concerned with your wife and everything else,
You'd
why
hightail it.
she does not want to be with you or around you, stop the chase. Like after she ran out of that building, nobody would have been like, well, I got to chase her down one more row. No, we're done here. So, side note with that is, since I found out Glenn was alive in the first 30 seconds and cussed numerous times, I was hoping he would die conveniently throughout the entire episode. I was hoping he would slip off the building and break his leg. I was hoping that when Enid pulled that gun, boom, she just shot him right in the face. Bam, there's Glenn's
Oh,
dead.
wouldn't that have been
Yeah.
awful?
And then I would have been so
Oh.
happy, like, yes, I have been avenged.
So this is a spoiler, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, for anybody who doesn't want to hear a spoiler. I kept waiting, and I'm still waiting for his arc in the comic books because I think that they're setting everybody up with an awful lot of hope right now, and I think we're going to see what happens. I think they're going to keep that arc.
Yeah, I do, and that's what really makes me agitated, that that's what's going to happen.
Well, and you're kind of watching for it. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm watching for it. I kind of felt this whole time like, when is this going to happen, and when are we going to see the mechanism for this happening fall into place? So I
Yeah.
definitely feel like Glenn's time is still limited. I feel like his number's up.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, and that's what kind of takes it away from me a little. That's why I stopped reading the comics, just because
Right.
it was getting too real. Yes, it kind of zigs and zags in and out, but you can kind of foreshadow a little bit, and I didn't like that, so I quit reading.
So I had someone predict to me today, and this is not really a spoiler, but she thinks Maggie's going to die. And I just kept as straight a face as I could and said, well, you haven't read the comic books, you're just going to have to watch. They've done a lot of twists and turns about between what's happened in the comics and what's happened on the show. So you'll just have to keep watching.
Yeah, I don't think Maggie's gonna buy it just because of the baby, and as much as this show crosses those lines,
Right.
they're not gonna mess with the baby, you know,
Yeah, we're not going to get the
regardless.
zombie baby.
Yeah. I guess
um,
they had so many chances to do that with Judith. They're never going to do it.
I'm so glad they haven't gone there.
Well, I honestly thought that they would just forget about her and just move
Yeah.
on. And it would be one of those things that's like, they just wrote her out of the storyline and didn't do anything with her. You
I'm
know?
glad they haven't done that either because although there's a lot of uncertainty in a zombie apocalypse and you may not ever see people again and you may not ever have a clean, tidy explanation, you'd think that Rick just forgetting his kid might, I don't know, bring something up. So I've got to say on my bad list, Carl. I not so much Carl as a character. I thought that he was really in character when Ron was being taught more about shooting. Just kind of the little digs that he kept
Oh,
taking
yeah.
at Ron.
Like a champ.
So, yeah, I mean, he was totally appropriate for a posturing adolescent boy, right? But I guess maybe it wasn't so much Carl, but I was like, why did Rick bring him? Why did Rick do this with him? Because it's just going to make things that much more tense and that much more complicated.
Well,
And I think Rick is busy and stressed and has a lot on his mind, but I don't think he's obtuse.
I don't think anybody realizes that they hate each other. Because
Well,
it's just assumed that since they're kids of the same age, they get along.
that they're going to be pals.
That they're
Yeah.
going to be pals because you got nobody else to play Hot Wheels with.
Right.
But, Carl's like, "Psh, I got your girl. I got the guns. I will
I've
kill
got the
you."
ammo.
Yeah.
My gun is loaded.
Mine is loaded. So it just kind of kept going on. And that was my other bad, was that just the way that scene was kind of forced together,
Yeah,
and Ron realized how far he was going and being too obvious and asking for ammo.
right.
So then I kind of had the joke when he's walking up behind Carl and kind of starts to pull that gun out. It's like he's
Hmm.
gonna be like, "Hey Carl, look, I stole some bullets. Let's go shoot some cans." And like totally throw everybody for like a 180. Like, dude, I got us some extra bullets, man. Let's go have some target practice and shoot these cans of beans, man. It'll be awesome.
That would be the mini Glenn outcome.
Yeah, it was just they they're trying so hard to kind of force this in there.
Hmm.
It makes me wonder who the casualty is going to be.
I think I know. That's part, well,
Okay,
that'll
that's
be
bold
down the road in
predictions.
predictions too. That'll be down the road in predictions. So anything else on your bad?
No, it was just the Glenn and then the Ron
God,
little sneak.
sorry, I wrote too much. So Spencer's little foray, that was on my bad list. It just was really annoying. And I kept hearing a lot of complaints during Fear the Walking Dead where people would say, I just don't care about these characters. I just don't care about these characters. And I feel that way largely about the people from Alexandria.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
S-
They really get on your nerves. But let me pitch this to you. What if Spencer wasn't going to save the town? What if he was leaving?
I think, and again, I think that's really possible because he was so despicable in the last episode that I could totally see him bailing on this group.
Yeah, he had two rifles with him. He had a handgun, and he's like, I'm out of here."
Yeah, and I've got to break in the crowd and I can lead them away is a nice excuse.
Yeah, I was gonna go
It's
find a car. Find a
it's kind of
car.
like
Really?
his speech about not vandalizing or looting Alexandria because you'll go down that bad road. That was a convenient speech.
Yeah, you don't go from stealing all this and raiding all this to then just happening to, like, you know what, I'm gonna save this world. I mean, he could have,
Right.
because he got his butt chewed by a mama and she smacked him, but I just don't see that.
I think the only place that I could see him doing that when I think about what in his character has been exposed to us, what we know about Spencer, he has such a gigantic ego, like his brother, that I could see him saying, I'm going to take this in my hands and save everything, and it will be my success.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? It was kind of annoying, but I don't know. So here comes another semi-dirty nod towards Deanna
Go
and
for
Tara.
it.
So the whole point, the guys I watch it with were a little colorful,
Awesome.
and when Rick's getting ready to rip into Deanna about her kid, and she's like, "No, thank you for saving him," and I didn't, it wasn't me. Thank Tara, and she's like, "I already did," and it's just like, whoa.
I totally know where you guys went with that.
Yeah, so it's like, wow, and she's like, and now I'm gonna thank you. Whoa, all right. She's just running down the list of people. That's cool.
Rick and Tara got more sex than anybody's had in the Zed apocalypse
Yeah.
for quite some time.
So it was kind of funny, but it was there to recklessly save Spencer from. They could have just let him die, to show that
Right.
Rick was thinking about them as one of their own and not somebody else.
Well, and I did think his response to Deanna about, I saved him because he's your son, and then her response, wrong answer. I thought that was an interesting interchange.
Yeah, she's trying to say, no, Rick, that's because you're a good guy. And, it's like, actually, Rick's kind of a badass. So,
Yeah, she doesn't know Rick from season
yeah,
one. We do.
sorry.
So that kind of leads into my last thing on my bad list, which is that I did feel like they just crammed too much into this one episode.
Yeah, there was a lot going on. You can tell
Hmm.
that the mid-season finale is right around the corner. They had to cram a bunch of stuff in there. They had to tie up some loose ends, and they had to put some people in the right spot. Do we know if the mid-season is an hour and a half?
Oh, good question. No, I just, as you were saying that, I knew where you were headed, and I thought, I haven't looked. I would be really surprised if they didn't give it a 90-minute finale, considering, or mid-season finale, considering they've kind of set that precedent.
Yeah, and especially if Morgan got that 90 minutes and they didn't.
Yeah. And I mean, there's so much still to tie up in the mid-season finale. I mean,
Yes.
I don't think it's on my bads, so I'm just gonna say it now, or on my uglies. But the fact that that wolf is still in Morgan's custody,
Yep.
that's just gonna be, excuse me, Rob, a major storm. That wolf is gonna get loose during the Walker herd, and it's just gonna be a nightmare.
um, so that is my ugly. Is
Oh, okay.
the
Your ugly
Yeah, the
is
doctor lady. I don't remember what her name
okay.
is.
Denise, Dr. Denise.
Going with Morgan.
Yeah.
Is she really that desperate for something fun to do?
Well, you know, when he first went to her at like midway through the episode, I thought, what is he doing? Is he going because he's trying to steal antibiotics? I mean, I couldn't quite figure out why he approached her at her residence. And then it became clear when he approached her in the infirmary and said, you know, I've got this secret and I don't know if I want to involve you.
Yeah, it was very frustrating to see this kind of exchange going on. It's like Morgan's gonna get his way, and then she's like, "Well, if it's infected and you got fever and this and that," and the dude already had it all.
Right, because he said that he was having all of those
Mm-hmm.
symptoms.
So what are you doing, man? And
Yeah.
then she's like, okay, let me conveniently walk 30 feet behind you in a linear way. You can tell she was that girl who wasn't involved in a lot of hijinks. So this is probably her like, oh my gosh, I'm Morgan so cool. Let me go be a rebel here, you know?
I'm so glad you said that because I watched the scene where she and Morgan were supposedly sneaking
So
into that
terrible.
residence, and then Carol was supposedly sneaking up behind them, and I thought, you are all so obvious.
Yeah. It's like just terrible.
It
So
was really bad.
yeah,
I agree. That's a bad bad.
that was my ugly. It's just like, is it
Or a bad
seriously
ugly.
going
Yeah.
this way? And then that bad ugly then kind of leads into bold predictions about who's gonna die.
So I've got a few things on my ugly list
Sure.
because, like I said, I just wrote way too damn much. But we'll get through them and we'll get to predictions. So I noticed that Stephen Yun was back in the credits and directly superimposed over the watch. So I thought that was a good ugly for me because I'd just been watching that little piece of the puzzle. This is kind of good and bad, and I covered it a little bit, but it was just being really edgy about Glenn's fate. One of the other podcasts that I listen to, the Talking Dead cast out of Canada, they always joke about whether or not The Walking Dead has reached its jump the shark moment, like Fonzie. And I'm kind of wondering if, for some people, Glenn surviving isn't the jump the shark moment.
Yeah, maybe. We know what's gonna happen with it though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with it because, quite honestly, I'm like, you know, I'm tagging along for the story. If I can survive being pissed off about last episode, I can survive any episode. Let's see, another good and bad. The tower. So the tower was super predictable, the tower falling down. So that was bad. But when you're reading tarot cards, the symbolism of the tower, and the tower is almost always shown collapsing when you look at those cards, is sudden, disruptive, and potentially destructive change.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So I think, you know, I don't think it was necessarily a nod, but boy, the use of the tower and the symbolism of the tower was really good. That was a good ugly for me.
Well, so I'll play on that a little bit. When I seen the first board fall, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Ooh, a wolf is in there."
Oh,
I was like, "The
okay.
wolves like stand by," and they just went up in the watchtower because they could see the whole town. So I'm just gonna
Right.
stand here and observe and see how many people come back if they go back to normal. So we can kind of go back and regroup, and I can count exactly how many people are there. Oh, they're all carrying guns now, stuff like that. So I'm like, oh man, awesome. There's a wolf in there, and maybe he's got a rifle, and he's just gonna start taking pot shots at people. So I went straight to death and destruction. But then when I seen the second one fall, I'm like, that's falling on the wall.
Well, you know, and I didn't necessarily notice the individual boards start falling, but, you know, when they started showing the crack through the building, my husband was like, what the hell is that? And I was like, oh, this part of the fence is bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.
This tower is integrated into the fence and it's going bye-bye. So two more goods or two more uglies, and I'll make them real quick. So this was a good ugly, just the whole. I actually liked Ron drawing down on Carl because I think I know where we're going with that.
Yes, I
And
agree.
I'm just wondering. I mean, again, comic book spoiler for people who don't want to hear it. Three, two, one. I'm. Did you read this portion in the comic books, and is that the way it evolved when Carl was injured? Was
I
Ron the person who injured him?
I don't know who it was, but I know that's what I'm hoping doesn't happen. I just hope we don't
It's
go there that obviously.
it's going to take an awful lot of green screen to pull that off.
Yeah. So
Um,
maybe it won't be as bad. Maybe it'll just
oh
be a little
yeah.
different. Maybe he'll
And
just
it
have a
presents
scar.
presents a place for Denise to become more integrated in the group. She potentially becomes very valuable and they might overlook her role in what she's doing with Morgan.
Maybe.
Um,
Curls.
yeah, I liked it. I mean, it was interesting. So my last thing, and I've created a new ugly category. So this is ugly epic. I just thought that scene of Glenn and Enid walking around the corner and seeing all of those walkers outside the wall was really cool.
Yeah, you know it. Even though I hated him now
Right?
forever. Sorry, everybody. I don't like Glenn's character anymore. He's dead to me. I
Oh,
will
that
never
is so
recognize
funny.
him as a walking character. I will recognize him as a figment of Enid's imagination.
I have a
Um,
feeling you're going to be celebrating at the season finale, the
yes,
final
yep.
episode of season six.
I'll be a happy camper. Um, it just it was great, but their dialogue was just very frustrating. And then like Glenn was talking in his uh I'm just terrible right now. Old man, beard, Maggie's dad, Herschel.
Herschel, yeah.
He's talking in Herschelisms.
Well,
He's
it's
passing on the
interesting
knowledge.
interesting that you say that because in his interview, Stephen Yun actually didn't volunteer, but was responding to a question that he was actually starting to show some parenting behavior with Enid and was thinking about the kid that he's got waiting for him back at Alexandria.
Yeah, it's just it goes back to my overall thing is just everyone's beating around the bush. Why don't you be like, look, Enid, I don't know what you've been through. I'm sure you'll tell me, but here's what I've been through. Here's what I've seen. And I wasn't ready for any of that stuff to happen. There's people who we're not Alexandria. We've seen a lot. Maggie watched her dad get his head chopped off.
Yeah.
We've been to Terminus where people were literally seasoning our skin to be eaten. Here's all the things that we've done and been through, and we're still here. And
You know,
I
oh,
want
go
to
ahead.
share that with you, so you know you're not alone.
And part of me says it's not cool to talk to a teenager that way, and another part of me says, no, this is the zombie apocalypse. You're totally going to be talking to people on a level of maturity that they've never experienced before. You're going to be talking to them about things like this because you have to.
Yeah, it's definitely a different ball game. So frustrating for me.
Okay, crazy predictions. Go for it.
All right, bold prediction. Who's gonna die?
Okay.
So I've got a lot of different thoughts here on how this is gonna go down. Obviously, 4,000 walkers come invading in. The biggest problem I see is that there's only one way in and one way out of Alexandria right now, and that's where the clock tower came crashing down.
Right.
Um, as that happens, that is going to be the distraction for the wolf to wrangle up Denise, Nurse Denise,
I
Doctor.
think you're right. I think he's going to end up getting loose.
Well,
Absolutely.
he may not get loose, but he's at least going to wrangle her up. Maybe kill her, maybe not. He's going to do some kind of damage to her, and then Carol's just going to boom kill him. I don't think he's going to get out and do a bunch of damage. I think Carol is just going to spot on kill him.
So I was thinking about how people are mirrors of each other. Like Enid was a mirror of Glenn, and Carol and Morgan were mirrors of each other, and that would be perfect because she would be doing the exact opposite of what Morgan wants to do with this guy.
Right.
So that would actually play into that very nicely.
Sure. So now another two-part is either Morgan steps in the way of the bullet
Okay.
and is killed
Mm-hmm.
by Carol's gun, who then kills the wolf and goes, this is what you sacrifice yourself for. Or Morgan realizes, God,
That he can kill.
I can't do this. And now him doing that. Now just got Dr. Denise killed, their only medical
Yeah.
person here. And he is just now basically given everybody here a death sentence with no medical knowledge left here at all. And then he just kind of goes and gets himself killed in some way, whether he like gets all the walkers to go to his corner and just starts fighting them off with his stick. Either way, if that's how that goes down, which I think it is, Morgan's done.
So, listening to you talk about what you think is going to happen to Morgan, I that's depressing for me because I was really excited about his return to the show. But another part of me thinks I would rather see Morgan die than see them continue to take him down this road of being so different from what I expected Morgan to be. I kind of expected him to be another Rick, which maybe wasn't fair, but or maybe another Glenn. I don't know, someone with some ethics, but also someone who is capable of saying, "This is the reality, and this is what needs to be done."
Yeah, I think Morgan's time is done on the show. And this other bit of evidence is whenever the show focuses on somebody for an extended
Right?
period of time to
They're
get you to
usually building
connect,
that person up to be killed.
correct. They did the same thing. Nobody cared about Beth. Nobody cared about Beth. And then they did a Daryl, and then her old hospital, and then before you know it, I'm bawling my eyes out because she's dead.
I have to tell you, totally honestly, I did not love Beth until Still.
Mm-hmm.
And then, same thing, I just became obsessed with Beth and I was totally devastated by her death. So I think you're right. And they did it with Herschel too. I mean, they so clearly built him up and then to have him killed off after internment.
Yeah,
It,
they do it with everybody. They did it with Bob. They
I
did it
don't
with
like the way that they
Tyrese.
telegraph that. I know other people have complained about it too, but I don't like the deaths being telegraphed like that.
Okay, now, what about Deanna's death? That's going to happen. Sorry, I got a little
I
frog in my throat
No,
here.
that's okay. I thought it was my microphone clicking.
No, it was me.
Um, I think I don't know. It's going to be either her or Spencer. There's going to be another loss in that family.
Okay, so
It's either going to rattle Spencer into growing the hell up, or
I will offer you this one bit of evidence. She has given over the plans to the city.
oh, yes, she did.
That
She
was
handed
her.
them over to Michonne,
Yep,
right?
here you go. We
Yeah.
are going to rebuild this. It is not going to die. She has given the plans over. She is doing this big realization on what it's going to take to do this, which is the same thing Noah did, and the same thing
Oh, it did.
um,
Yes.
Reg did. And here we go. And bam, Deanna, you are toast, lady.
So I watched this episode. I'm kind of changing this subtly and realized that they did not cover Daryl, Sasha, or Abe at all. And I didn't realize that. I didn't think about that until the episode was over. So here's my crazy prediction for next week. So Daryl, Sasha, and Abe with the rocket propelled grenade launcher with Patty the truck to the rescue in Alexandria.
Yes, with Abraham sacrificing himself.
I think it's possible that we could see Abraham's death. I haven't really thought about, okay, who's going to die. I think you're right. I think there's going to be serious
Yeah,
carnage.
I have
And I think
scenarios
that
for
this
everybody
could
dying.
be this could be Abe's end. I agree with that.
Reason being, he is a huge actor in real life. He is a big name guy.
He was pretty freaking awesome in Band of Brothers.
Yeah, he's a big
Yeah.
name dude. So to have him always on the show kind of retracts from because Abraham's my favorite. Met the dude in person, totally awesome.
Oh,
Totally
cool.
dug him.
I'm sorry, and I love his dialogue too. I think it's hilarious. I
Yeah,
know that there are other people who are put off by it, but I think it's really funny.
he had his moment. He made peace with the walkers by screaming at it. He got himself some cigars. He had his kind of little love triangle he's got going on now that he's
Well,
going
and
to
you're
have to deal
right.
with.
He really did come to peace, and I think that was the big thing.
And now, if he has an opportunity to save the rest of the place, he is going to do it. And whether that's a faulty RPG, which I don't think is going to happen, but like he's all excited, he gets this thing going, and then he
Right.
clicks the button and it blows up in his hand, and it
Oh
kaboom!
God, that would be horrible.
All right, well, there goes Abraham.
Okay, I'm gonna buy that though. I think you're right. I think Abraham might be one and done.
Yeah, so that's a big one there.
So the other thing that I wanted to point out is that they did confirm that the character from last week was Dwight from the comic book, that guy had been cast as Dwight.
Yes.
The other couple of things that well, the one thing that I wanted to point out is that we still have the lingering question of who was calling for help on the radio, and what does that mean? Where does that fall in the timeline?
So I still totally dig my theory about wolves and saviors, and they've been monitoring
Mm-hmm.
the frequency this whole time. But now that the watchtower came down, I think it's somebody inside Alexandria, and that's how
Do
they're gonna
ya?
find out. Help! Like, wait, who is this? This
So do
is
you
blah
think
blah blah.
it's the way that they're going to get Daryl and Sasha and Abe to step on it and come to the rescue with their firepower?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I think that's a good explanation. I like that. The other thing I'm still kind of holding out for that I think is a possibility is that it could be a distraction by the other group, by Dwight's group or Dwight's former group. But I also think that it could be something said by our group. You're right, that maybe it's somebody in Alexandria calling for help. And it also draws not just Daryl, Sasha, and Abe in to ride to the rescue, but it pulls in that other group to come and check out Alexandria.
Well, they're gonna see it when that fuel truck starts on fire,
Right.
which was my
And
other. Go
so I
ahead.
was thinking helium. Helium is highly flammable too,
Oh
right? So they're
yeah,
going to add a little
kaboom!
helium into the mix.
So my other prediction and how we get the saviors
Hmm.
going to that area or somebody going to Alexandria. And it's something way back when Alexandria first started and Sam was kind of walking along with a red balloon and then he let it go. I was like, oh man, someone's going to see that red balloon. And this is
Right.
way back when they first got to Alexandria.
I remember that.
Now that they let them 6 green balloons go, I think somebody's going to see those 6 green balloons and say, what's
And
that?
track Alexandria that way.
Because
It's
I
possible
mean, if you think about it, when parades let balloons go, you can see those balloons way far away.
for miles. Yeah.
So the fact that now you have green balloons when there haven't been balloons in 3 years, something's over that way in that general direction. Let's go.
And there's no air traffic and there's nothing to disrupt it. There's nothing to draw away from it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Okay, any more predictions?
I probably got a death scenario for anybody. So,
Anybody else you want to speculate about?
well, the Ron Carl thing. So this is an opportunity with all this going on for Ron to get his.
Absolutely.
And
And potentially to even blame it on somebody else.
right. So is he going to get the shot off or is he going to accidentally kill his mom?
Oh.
Because she's
So,
jumping in front of Ron being like, "Ron, no, what are you doing? Like, why?
right.
Stop it. Stop it. This is not it." And he's all mad and he's crying. And he doesn't know how to handle a gun. And then she's
Mm-hmm.
trying to wrestle away from him and boom, he shoots his mom.
Oh, good one.
Because look, love interest Rick not in the best.
Right. That would hurt Rick in a really big way.
Right. So then
So
Rick
is
just pulls up and either Carl kills him or like he just realizes what he's done and then a walker gets him. That
I
he
think
killed
you're
his
right.
mom.
I
Which
I will I will bite that Ron is going to go in this episode too. I think that's reasonable.
which then parlays into Sam, her other son,
Right.
with all his questions about the monsters. And you see this child start to unravel. Carol is probably going to take him in.
Oh, great. He's our next Lizzie.
Is he Lizzie? Which kind of was my crazy Carl from the comic books, where Carl just, he just loses it and just like, I will
Right.
kill every one of you mofos right now.
Right.
You know?
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
So is that kind of where, Sam is starting to unravel. He's that quiet monster that Lizzie kind of was, is Carol going to make Sam look at the flowers?
Well,
You
he's
know?
definitely observing Carol more closely than he's observing anyone. And you want to talk about quiet monster.
Yeah,
I mean, I think Carol is a great example
mhm.
of what that is in an adult body.
So those are kind of my predictions there. I don't think Tara's going to bite it, which you can finally tell in this one cuz she just had a baby a little while ago. You
Yeah,
can
you
tell
can.
it in this
I thought you could
episode.
kind of see it too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because one of my buddies like, wait a minute. has she been stealing food? And I'm like, no, dude, she's pregnant while they were filming this. And he's like, oh, yeah, now I can
Yeah.
tell. Yep.
So zombie kill of the week or zombie of the week, I have to give props to my husband. I think he's right. I think that he commented that Enid probably had to put her parents down. So I think the most important zombie kill of this week actually was a reference to off-screen zombies.
Well, I liked the one where I don't remember the dude's name. The when Glenn was backtracking, like his whole eyeball was melted to the
Daryl.
fence,
Oh yeah,
and
that
he was
was
kind of
good.
pulling
And
off.
Glenn found the note.
Yeah, and Glenn found the note, which then, kind of ties back to, Michonne has blood on her hands because then his wife, Betsy,
Killed
killed
herself.
herself in the house.
Right.
So it's like, man, all this stuff happened because it's just such a cause and effect and a karma thing, man. And where is the other group of runners that was with Alexandria? The one people that were with Michonne, they had experience on runs and everything.
Oh, so are you thinking about Ross and his boyfriend Eric or
No, the other black dude that had the dreads and the
Oh,
glasses.
Heath, you're right.
Yeah, where's Heath at?
Yeah, because Heath was with Michonne and they didn't show him at all in this episode. You are right. I didn't think about that either.
Because he's got to stick with the group. He's legit. He knows
Right.
what's going on. He's got to stay
He's a
with the
big
group.
character. Yeah. Oh, good point. I didn't even think about him not being shown in this episode.
Yeah. So then, clear conscious thinking. This whole horde of zombies coming in isn't going to be that big of a problem. If everybody goes up on the porches of their houses, everyone's going to be just fine.
They have defensible space. That's a good point.
Like,
I didn't
why
think
are we
about
freaking
that.
about this? Just all right, everyone get it. Just one house. Everybody go to one house because the zombies can't go up and climb over the railings. So they're coming up the steps, which they're not even supposed to be able to come up steps, but we'll deal with it. Just start knocking a couple down, and then you're
And
just
then
gonna
you've got a
start.
heap.
You got
Yeah.
a pile, and then all right, cool. Let's just start take. Yeah, it's 3,000. Totally get it, but we can manage this over time. We can manage this and start to go.
So we have been shown in the past that the zombies are possibly a threat to structures if they all gang up as a herd and start plowing toward that structure. Do you think a house would survive that onslaught?
Oh yeah, I mean, the porch may not, but then you can still go to a little bit farther, a little bit farther. You can just keep
Hmm.
working now. Go up the stairs. Go up the stairs of the house. I mean, these are all 5-bedroom, pretty sweet houses. There's no ranches
Right.
here,
Right. You got it.
so you can just keep going and keep working your way through the house because they can't come up a whole flight of stairs. They just can't. So, regardless, you're going to be alive and just calm, cool, and collected. But that's not going to happen because that'd be boring.
It's going to be much, much better if it's just a bloodbath.
Yeah, which it's going to be. Let's do this. Let's put a number on this. So easy count. Even if we're probably all wrong with the characters' names, there will be 8 cast deaths.
Now, you must be including ancillary cast as
Yeah,
well
yeah.
as
Anybody
main
who's
and
in
B
Alexandria,
cast.
yeah, Alexandria plus Maine. I'm gonna say 8 deaths.
Mm, I'm going to push it a little higher. I'm going to say 10.
10. All right. Let's
So we'll see.
let's
People
do
weigh
it.
in and tell us what you think.
Yeah, or listeners, throw up your bold predictions on the Facebook group.
Yeah,
Throw it up there.
we'd
Who
love
do
to
you
see
think is
them.
gonna die and why?
Or you can send it to biters@gmail.com or southgatemedia@gmail. And we'll get that as an email from you.
You bet.
So I wanted to say just a couple of quick things about The Talking Dead because I did take the time to watch that. And then I thought we could go into listener feedback.
Sure.
So they had a really funny segment that they called the Unmemoriam segment for Glenn. I thought that was super funny.
The resurrection.
When Gimple and Stephen Yeun were interviewed to talk about the whole story arc with Glenn, they had an Alaska license plate in the frame.
Oh, really?
Which is pretty cool. It was a nod to Ross Marquand's character,
Sure.
to what's his name, Aaron, collecting license plates, but it was pretty cool. And then Scott Gimple commented that he felt like the whole handling and drawn out nature of us waiting for Glenn's fate was kind of recreating the uncertainty of the world in the zombie apocalypse. So I thought his perspective on it was interesting.
I think they didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal, and everyone just assumed he was going to be alive, that everyone would be okay with it. And then once it happened, because, I mean, you think about it, when that episode was over, in the 5 minutes of absolute fury that overtook the internet, he texted, what's his face on The Talking Dead to read that
Right.
off.
Right. Yeah, we'll
So
see him in some way, shape, or form.
yeah, so the fact that that was done within 10 minutes of the program ending, that's pretty powerful. I think they realized it and went, whoops.
Well, and they did make the point, and I thought this was kind of cool. They talked about how, because most of us binge watch new shows, that we don't have necessarily that interaction about, hey, did you see what happened on such and such last night? And they were pleased to spark that interaction. That's probably understating it. They just made a hell of a lot of money and upped their viewership.
Oh, yeah.
But But I thought that was an interesting point too, that it really got everybody having a conversation around the events in the most recent episode and speculating about what was going to happen.
All right, we're going to hit this viewer feedback.
Yeah, so I thought when we look at the feedback from Always Accountable, Kirk did such a nice job of wrapping it up on the Facebook page that I thought we would read his feedback. Do you want to take it or do you want me to?
You can. It's a whole book, and I despise reading.
Okay. So this is from Kirk, and it's about last week's episode, and he said, I loved this episode. I give it 4.5 itchy asses. LOL. Good. This was classic Walking Dead. Solo Daryl is always good. Always so cool and so badass, yet one of the most humane characters of the entire series. He goes back to get them the insulin after all that bullshit they put him through. Daryl is the superhero of the show, hands down. Give that guy a cape and a big red S on his chest. Comic spoilers ahead. This is still part of his good. The introduction of the Saviors. We meet Dwayne from the comic books and find out how he got a crossbow. Can't wait to see him again down the road with a melted face. LOL. Tons of hints about Negan. Twice, Daryl and Dwayne talked about kneeling, maybe foreshadowing Daryl's destiny to meet the wrong side of Lucille instead of Glenn. I'm just going to speak to Kirk real quick here. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that you and I are going to be right, and Glenn is still going to have his fate. Anyway, let's see, Abraham battling his crazy and Sasha helping him find his center. And I couldn't have agreed more with Mr. Abraham, now the show's honorary poet. Loose ends make my ass itch. LMFAO. Abraham has finally worked through his pain and is leaving his old life in the rearview mirror. Of course, that probably means he is toast soon. Ha! Lots of great callbacks to past seasons, too. A great one was the Cherokee rose flower growing out of the back of the Swamp Thing zombie. You can see it after it hits the ground. Or when Daryl asks Dwayne the 3 questions. Still on his good, RPG grenade guns, cigars, and a big-ass fuel truck, Patty. What's not to love about all that? LOL, bet that stuff comes in handy for dealing with the Alexandria herd problem at the wall. I agree. And of course, the final help on the walkie. Glenn? Maybe Dwayne setting up a trap? Oops, and one more thing. Love the title and how it tied into both storylines of Daryl and Abraham. No matter how screwed up things get, no matter what the world throws at you, no matter how mean and rotten people are to you, we are all accountable for our actions. It's the more rewarding it's the easy way out to blame others or circumstances or obstacles like zombies. The difficult but more rewarding thing to do is set up and help, to step up and be accountable for your actions. Daryl has every right to leave those losers, but the right thing and the accountable thing was to step up and take the insulin back. For Abraham, he had to realize that his lack of being accountable was good to get himself and those around him killed. Time to take responsibility for himself and his actions, no matter the situations. Good stuff. Scott Gimple rocks. Awesome episode, tension-filled, lots of great character development, intro of new plot lines and characters, and callbacks to past episodes. Okay, his bad. The only bad for me was Abraham's line to Sasha, a man just knows. That was stupid writing. LOL, it kind of fit his character, but in terms of making any headway with Sasha, that was a non-starter kind of line. He should have just said, a guy can hope, or something like that. Ugly. Comic book Swamp Thing tribute zombie. Woohoo! I know everyone's all upset because Daryl struggled with the bag to get the crossbow. For me, that was believable given all he had just been through. Plus, it wasn't his bag, and there was other junk in it like the insulin cooler. Also loved Also, the whole introduction of Team Dwayne and what that means for the show going forward. Loved that. By the way, I miss you guys all terribly. Sorry I haven't been posting much, and I'm way behind in my tribute art. Life has been just such a bitch lately. No time, lots of stress, it blows. But I can't wait to come on Biters with Diane to talk about the mid-season finale, and I'm working slowly but surely on my tributes. Morgan's solo episode will post up in the morning. Don't hate too much on The Walking Dead, it's still the best damn zombie show the world has ever seen. Peace out, Kirk.
All right.
So he really loved it, and more in keeping with you, which I think is interesting.
All right, so I'll run through some of them from this week here. I'll give your vocal cords a break.
Awesome.
Thomas O'Mara, this week's episode, he got a 4.75 useless Eugene machetes out of 5. Great episode. We didn't really address that, but it was really kind of, foreshadowing for what's going to be coming through the wall. They're teaching them all how to cut through bone, and now 3,000 walkers are coming through the wall. And
I think about what eventually may have to happen in terms of a resolution of a relationship between Eugene and Rosita. I mean, I'm not saying anything in terms of them having a sexual relationship or anything like that, but I think we're just going to see them draw closer.
Maybe.
If they survive. If they survive.
Marnell Steiner, the most important thing about Glenn being alive is I was right. Tom
Which,
DeRosa,
by the way, I gotta dog her a little bit. That's my little sister.
Oh.
And she happened to say on Kirk's post, "We really miss you too." And I thought, great, way to support me, sis. But I really miss Kirk too. So anyway, go ahead, Tom DeRosa. Sorry.
Tom DeRosa, I believe they bring him back so that Negan does in fact kill him, as in the books, my wild guess. Which I hope is wrong because it would be horrible to watch, but Negan's probably going to kill somebody.
Oh, Negan's definitely going to kill somebody.
Gijo Puthia, get it out of the way for the mid-season finale, which will be the Swarming Horde. Laura Will Swank, number 1. So that we know that Gimple and company don't totally hate Maggie by killing off her father, sister, and Glenn at MSF's. 2, good guys can win, and hope lives on for the last surviving Asian.
I don't think so, but go ahead.
Her likes, Tara's one finger salute, Rosita steps it up. Preach's sister, who does machete training in open-toe shoes? Note, never ask Carol for parenting advice.
Note to self, don't leave your kids alone with Carol either.
Yeah, no kidding. And then Thomas Reese, he has a suggestion for some off-season content. It's kind of start over from 101.
I would actually kind of enjoy that. So we'll have to talk offline about whether or not we want to do that. But I think it could be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Some other things, and I would really love to hear people's suggestions and really encourage them. But, I was thinking maybe we could have Kirk and Jeff come on and give us an update about Z-Girl. If anyone's got interview suggestions or can hook us up with an interview, I would love that. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think we've got some good ideas here. I think we've got some good content, but ultimately this show is for you. So if you want to hear our takes and typically opposing views, make sure you reach out to us and let us know your thoughts. And I love one thing. I was kind of talking to some friends. I do some other podcasts, and I'm like, yeah, I'm on this new one, Biters. I did some other Walking Dead stuff in the past, which we'll cover some of that stuff later. And I'm like, yeah, I literally dropped in on one episode, and I had some dudes already busting on me in the comments on Facebook, and I have only been on there for one episode, so I appreciate it and keep it coming. It's fun to have interaction, good or bad. And,
I agree with you. I love the interaction with people. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys got a great fan base for this show. Very passionate, and I love hearing it. So keep it coming.
And I love being able to talk to somebody once a week about The Walking Dead. It's like one of my highlights. So I can't say how much I appreciate you coming on.
Hey, absolutely. It's my pleasure. We will make a lot of cool things come out.
All right. So on that note, I guess we'll wrap it up, and we will see you next week, hopefully with Kirk and Jeff for the mid-season finale.
All right, everybody. Just remember, take it one dead day at a time.